Bruchim Abayim, welcome everyone. Carolyn Barrett asked us on Quora.com the following question. Is it proper to pray to multiple gods, or should one believe in only one God? This is an interesting question because the way it's presented is that it presents two different questions. If you would ask, should one pray to multiple gods or only one God? That's one question, essentially. Should one believe in multiple gods or only one God? That's one question. But it's two different questions. Should one pray to multiple gods, or should one believe in only one God? And what does that mean? And what is prayer and what is belief? So first of all, these are issues in theology that need to be addressed when we answer such a question. Obviously, we could just give a very simple answer, which is not necessarily a simplistic answer. It's an extremely deep answer, but it needs to be explained and contemplated and meditated on. But the simple answer is, of course, there's only one God, and we're only allowed to pray to one God. That is, you're asking me as a rabbi, a representative of the Jewish faith, and that is our dogma, is that we believe in only one God, and also a separate article of faith, and the way that we express it in our liturgical credo is that I believe with a perfect faith that it is only worthwhile to pray to the blessed Creator, and it is not proper nor worthwhile to pray to anything else but the Creator. And so when someone recognizes that aspect of one's creed, it seems that the answer is very simple, and it's answered very plainly. The question is, we see things that in our liturgy and in our hymns which may appear to be almost like a prayer to angels, essentially. We often find prayers not in like official liturgy, not in our basic liturgy, but in popular parts of the Jewish liturgy and very popular hymns. We see things that appear to be requests to angels. And the question is, what is that? How do we handle that? What's this guy doing? Are we... If we're not allowed to pray to anything else but the Creator, how do we have these statements in our liturgy? Even if it's not our official mandated liturgy, it's part of our tradition. So there are many pious Jews who say one should not use those popular folk prayers because they're heretical. Well, so that's a simple answer, but then are we therefore claiming that anybody, including people that we respect very highly, are therefore heretics because they might have composed such prayers or hymns? What does that mean? Where we're making petitions to angels. So the different interpretations and different approaches to it. But essentially, a petition to an angel is no different than a petition to a human being. The angels are essentially, in this manner, pretty much our peers. They're not our superiors in this area. We're in fellowship with them. And so therefore, just as you would maybe go to a friend or someone who is someone that you respect, show respect to the angels, perhaps, and ask them to pray for you, ask them to do what they can do to help you out. No one would say that it's heretical to write a letter to your congressman or something like that. Doesn't mean that they're going to accomplish what you want necessarily, but the essence is that we recognize that there's really only one God, the first cause, the creator, the unmovable mover, and that the angels are our fellow creatures. And so they are not to be worshipped as gods, but if someone wants to show some sort of a reverence to them, or some sort of a fellowship with them, or some sort of a veneration toward them, and similarly to saints, to exalted or masters and so forth, similarly we can show respect and veneration without it actually being worship. And so to one's ancestors, to show veneration without worship, and to offer petition that is not prayer, for lack of a better term. We do see, let's say for example, in some Christian denominations, particularly the more traditional older churches, the Catholic churches and the Eastern Orthodox churches, where they do petition and venerate saints and angels and so forth, and will use the English word prayer, which perhaps etymologically is apt in English to refer to this type of a petition, this reverent petition. But I would say even these groups are essentially monotheist. They do not consider any of these saints or angels or Mary or anyone else to be gods, but rather they are objects of veneration and fellowship, and perhaps petition in the sense of being someone who might have a power of prayer that we personally lack. And so we recognize that God is the one who's in control. I heard one Catholic priest explain it like this, that let's say there was a marathon race, and there's the last guy left running the race, and if he doesn't finish it in the next 2 minutes, his whole run is worthless. And all of the people who already finished the race are cheering and encouraging him to not give up. And essentially that's what the fellowship of the saints are. We're still running the race, they've already ran the race, and so therefore they are our friends who love us, who are cheering us on as we complete the race, which is an interesting idea and not really in any way contrary to the Jewish view. I think it's an eloquent explanation of what it means to have a fellowship of saints. Obviously, we have different saints, but quite often many of the modes of veneration are quite similar, whether you're talking about Hasidic Jews, or you're talking about Sufi Muslims, or you're talking about Catholic or Eastern Orthodox Christians. all of these groups are strictly monotheist. Obviously, you can have the whole argument about the doctrine of the Trinity, which obviously I reject. But still, essentially it's triune. It essentially believes that it's a unity. Again, it's not our doctrine, so it's not for me to defend it. But the doctrine of a fellowship of saints is certainly a Hasidic doctrine. It's not essential to Judaism, but it's something that's popular among Hasidic Jews and Sephardic Jews of certain communities, Middle Eastern, Sephardic, Mizrahi Jews particularly have a whole theology very identical to that of the Hasidic Jews, of the veneration of saints, tzaddikim, we call them. But in that sense, it's not in any way taking away from our monotheism, because we recognize these saints to essentially be vis-a-vis this measure of the ultimate issues of God, that these are our peers, these are people that we're in fellowship with, these are our friends. These are certainly, they're on a higher level than we are, but if you compare that to the infinite, it's meaningless. Meaning God is infinite, and these, however great these saints are, it's almost like it's not even like comparing a distance between London and New York City to the distance between two galaxies, and that's not even, because obviously God is infinite, and so you have such of a distance between the bottom of the Marianas Trench to the top of Mount Everest. It seems to us as mere mortals to be incredible. But then the distance from the Earth to the Sun, and then the distance from the Sun to Pluto, and the distance from one solar system to the next, and the distance from one galaxy to the next, is very much more difficult for us to understand, and much more vast. And when you compare any of that with infinity, it's all nothing, because there's no difference between infinity. So with that being said, to make any comparison to any type of petition that's made to any angel or saint or little g God, and that with a prayer to the Creator, is likewise infinitely different, because any transient little g God that may very well exist, so what? And like we exist. So therefore, if one wants to make a petition to them, there's very little purpose in that except for something emotional for us. And if we evolve past that and look at the big picture and only worship the Creator, so then we've evolved. And the truth is if you study a lot of these polytheistic faiths, many, if not all of them, have, with some exceptions, have an essentially monotheistic base. So I recall Alan Watts, a great philosopher and a scholar of world religion. He said that the Hindu gods, for example, are, that word gods is not the right word in English. The right word should be angels. And they, the issue is we're not allowed to pray to angels or have cults to angels or offer sacrifices to angels and so forth. But still, again, we find prayers, Machnise Rachmim, Machnisu Rachameinu, Lifnei Bala Rachmim. We ask the angels to bring our prayers before God. We ask the angels to bring God's protection upon us. We also ask God to send His angels to protect us. But ultimately, it's the one true God, the one Creator, who is the King of all kings and the God of all gods. And so to us, as human beings, we might be impressed with these seemingly supernatural beings, but the truth of the matter is, these are psychological entities and do not necessarily have to be recognized or worshipped. So from the vantage point of Judaism, there's no reason to call these beings gods, other than the fact that even in Hebrew we use that word Elohim for various things, including the one true God, but also we use it to refer to angels, to refer to things that other cultures worship, and we use it to refer to judges, human beings, and godly people. Ishu Elohim, Ish Elohim, a man of God. So meaning that a godly man, there's something godly. So we recognize that there are other created beings that are impressive to us as human beings, but they are not in any way to be compared to our Creator, who is in a totally different category. So therefore, that's my answer, is that's why we do not pray to more than one God, because philosophically speaking, there can only be one Almighty God. There has to be a Creator, and there has to, Maimonides talks about this based on the philosophy of Aristotle, actually, to the point where there is an essential philosophical need for one God to exist, for God to exist, and for that God to be almighty. And if it's going to be almighty, it has to be one. Because if it wasn't one, it wouldn't be almighty, wouldn't be omnipresent, wouldn't be omniscient. Those aspects of God require a unity in God. So that's not to say these other beings don't exist. You want to call them angels, you want to call them demons, extraterrestrials, whatever they are. And again, some of that has to do with, well, what are they asking you to do? These other beings. If they're inspiring you to dedicate yourself to the exclusive worship of the one true God. So there's nothing wrong with those beings. They're good. They are good role models. If they are asking for human sacrifice, for violence, for evil, well, obviously those are things you want to stay away from. And historically, we know there were pagan religions that had those things. And so obviously those would have to be some sort of an evil, demonic type of force. And we're discussing that in some other videos on this channel. If you watch our videos on the channel about that historically and psychologically and so forth. So therefore, excuse me, there is nothing else to actually pray to expect to be actually able to do anything but the one true God. And there's nothing else that's worthy of one's faith and trust than the one true God. Meaning, to put trust in idols is foolish. You know, one way I heard it explained is that, you know, the Jewish people, we like to do everything wholesale. We don't like to go to a retail shop. We don't like to deal with a middleman. We go straight to the source. And that's how we like our religion also. Idolatry isn't as foolish as we think it is, unless one is intelligent enough to realize how foolish it truly is. Meaning, it's not nothing, it's not stupid, it's buying something retail when you could buy it wholesale. These beings exist, many of them do. They exist on some sort of a plane, but even if it's just psychologically. But therefore, why be involved with this? Because it's fun, because it's interesting, because you get something out of it, because it's emotionally or psychologically satisfying. And that's really psychologically, that's what religion is all about. Is that there's a certain satisfaction as human beings that we receive from religious devotions. Just like we receive that type of satisfaction from other types of things that we engage in, hobbies and so forth. So I mean, I know people, and I listen to people who are neo-pagans, and these things provide them with, you know, and much of how a lot of these pagan groups approach their deities is similar to how monotheists venerate saints. And furthermore, they recognize that these beings are not eternal. They might live or exist in a very expanded way that maybe we don't. But it's something that people connect to very much. It provides emotional and psychological satisfaction. But there's a reason why it's prohibited. in Judaism. And not only is it prohibited in Judaism, but Judaism believes that it's prohibited for all people to worship other gods. And we believe that every human being should only worship the Creator. It's part of what we call the 7 laws of Noah. Is the prohibition against idolatry. So again, so how do we balance these issues? And again, so the answer is we only pray to the one true God, and we only believe in the one true God. And belief is more than just theology. Belief is also who we put trust in. And that is the challenge of idolatry. Even in our modern world, where maybe people are not putting their trust in Thor or Zeus or Kali or whoever else, or Ra, but they might be placing their trust in Mammon, in money. And that's also idolatrous if someone engages in that. And so one must avoid that type of idolatrous trust in anything other than the Creator. So, with these things in mind, that is why I, as someone who's an adherent to the faith of Judaism, insist that I believe in only one God and I worship and pray to only one God. I may respect angels and saints. I may believe in the existence of angels and demons and ghosts and whatever other things. But that is not an issue of worship, and that is in no way similar to the greatness and infinite greatness of the one true God, the unmoved mover, the Creator, the one who cannot be divided into parts, the one who is totally one. And again, that's why we reject the Christian idea of the Trinity, because for something to be almighty, it must be one, and it must be immutable and indivisible. And so to be able to divide the essential God into 3 parts removes some of that eternal aspect of God. Now, I heard one Christian say, well, in Judaism we have the idea of the Shekhinah, of the manifested presence of God in this world. And so, if we believe that the Shekhinah, the manifested presence of God in this world, could manifest itself, let's say, in the tabernacle, in the temple, why couldn't, let's say, Jesus be a walking manifestation of the Shekhinah? The answer I'm going to give is going to be maybe controversial to some of my Jewish brothers and sisters. But if it is, it's only because you're not understanding what I'm saying. For someone to say that, even though I don't believe it's true about Jesus, I don't believe him to have been a manifestation of the Shekhinah, but it would not be heretical. The way that it would be heretical to say that Jesus is God, the Creator, and that it's totally in union with God the Creator in a way that we are not, in a way that nothing else in the universe is, other than the Holy Spirit, and again, in the Christian theology. Because obviously Jesus, when he said, my Father this, my Father that, talking about God, it doesn't necessarily have to mean biologically speaking, but rather how we always prayed, even before Jesus, our Father who art in heaven. We have one Father. Referring to God as Father is a part of our tradition that predates Christianity. But that doesn't mean that he, and even if he would say he's God's son, well, the Bible says, Banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem. You are children to the Lord your God. B'ni b'chori Yisrael, my son, my firstborn Israel. So what does that mean? It means that this terminology doesn't mean theologically what Christians think it is. And the Shekhinah is not in the sense of what Christians believe about Jesus. And the truth is, the whole Klal Yisrael, Knesset Yisrael, is the Shekhinah, is Malchus in Kabbalah. But again, that doesn't mean that we are the creator, that we're eternal, being part of this community. It means a certain type of fellowship we have with God, and the recognition we have of God, a connection we have to God that's unbreakable. But it doesn't mean that God is in some way divisible into parts. And so the Shekhinah essentially is a created being and not God the Creator. It's a manifestation of God in this world. But we do not pray to the Shekhinah. We might make declarations that the purpose of doing a particular mitzvah is to show and demonstrate the unity that all things have, that the universe has to the Creator, and so the unity between the Holy One and the Shekhinah. But again, that's not theologically similar to the doctrine of the Trinity in Christianity. And so to say that the Mashiach, to say that the Messiah is a manifestation of the Shekhinah would not necessarily be heretical. I've also heard it that the Mashiach would be the manifestation of various angels, Metatron, and so forth. It also could be the manifestation of the Shekhinah. So again, essentially, this all goes back to how we started. That God is one, and His name is one. There's nothing else but Him, no one else to pray to, and nothing else that's really real. And so therefore, not only nothing else to have any theological belief in, but no one else to trust, and that's what it means, belief. No one else to expect to be able to accomplish anything other than the original first cause, the Creator, who is nonetheless still involved in our lives and in fellowship with us, but transcendent of anything that could exist, but protecting us under His divine providence. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, share, hit the like button, and make sure that you have the notifications on if you have a smartphone, so you can get our videos in the future. God bless. Thank you for watching. See you later.